Good morning, all of you. Hope you are fine. Today we are going to discuss about our third chapter, and the name of our third chapter is More About Numbers. More about numbers. On our previous chapters, we have been discussed about the two types of numbers, whole numbers and natural numbers. Then we discussed about different number systems. Thereafter, on the second chapter, we discussed about different algebraic operations and their properties. And on our third chapters, something above it, something additional to it are going to be studied. Okay, and on our chapter More About Numbers, these are the main topics that we are going to discuss. And out of that, the first one is factors and multiples. The second topic would be prime and composite numbers. The prime and composite numbers we discussed in the previous class. So all of these topics would be discussed much more in detail. Okay, and our third topic would be divisibility, and the fourth one prime factorization. The next one is highest common factor, which is HCF. Then the next one would be lowest common multiple, which would be LCM. And finally, we would discuss about some properties of both HCF and LCM. So these are the main topics that we are going to discuss on our third chapter, More About Numbers. And out of that, today we would discuss only about this topic, factors and multiples. Okay, so let's begin with the concept of factors and the concept of multiples. Okay, now we are going to understand about the concept of factors and multiples by using an example. Suppose I have taken a number 6. And now I am going to divide this 6 by different divisors. Okay, first of all, I am going to divide this 6 by the number 1. And you know the answer is 6 itself. 6 divides 1 would be 6 itself. And there would not be remainder. There would not be remainder. Okay. Now, on next, I am going to divide the number 6 by the divisor 2. And when 6 is divided by the divisor 2, you know the answer is 3. Again, here also there is no remainder existing. Okay. Now, on the next, I am going to divide this 6 by the number 3. And obviously, the answer would be 2. The question would be 2 and there also would not be any remainder. And on next, if I am dividing 6 by the number 4, then you can see that 6 divides 4. How many times 4 occurs? The divisor 4 occurs in 6. There would be only 1 times. And there would be a remainder and a remainder. Can you tell me what would be the remainder here? Yes, after 4 on 6 there would be a remainder of 2. Clear? And now tell me what I am going to do. I am going to divide 6 by the divisor 5. And again you can see that the 5 occurs in 6 only 1 times. And you can see that there also would be a remainder 1. And finally, I am going to divide 6 by the number 6 itself. So that our answer would be, how many times 6 occurs inside 6? Only 1 times. And can you tell me whether there would be a remainder or not? Yes, there would not be a remainder. Okay. So, in all these divisions, there are certain special cases in which the remainders are 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. In all these 4 cases, the remainders are 0. And when the remainders are 0, we can say that all these divisors, which divisors? The divisor 1, the divisor 2, the divisor 3 and the divisor 6. They are exact divisors. They are exact divisor. So which are the exact divisor? In the case of 6, we can see that the exact divisors are 1, 2, 3 and finally 6. Okay. Now these exact divisors of a number is called its factors. Its factors. So what is actually factors? Factors are exact divisors. And what do you mean by exact divisors? Exact divisors means when we divide a number with those divisors, then the remainder would be, in all those cases, the remainder would be 0. That's why these divisors are called exact divisor. And such an exact divisor is called a factor. Okay. Or in other words, we can directly say that 1, 2, 3 and 6 are the factors of which number? Factors of the number 6. Okay. So this is how the concept of factors is defined. Simply, factors are the exact divisors of a number. Now you just look at here. You can see that when we consider the number 6, and if we are considering the factors of the number 6, all the factors are either less than 6 or at maximum it can be equal to 6. There would not be a factor of a number which would be greater than that number. Okay. So all the factors of 6 would be either equal to 6 or less than 6. Just like that, all the factors of 10 would be at maximum it can be equal to 10. And all other factors would be or must be less than 10. Okay. So that's all about factors. I hope you clear about what is actually mean by a factor. Factors are the exact divisors. Clear? Okay. Now consider a division. As before we done 6 divided by 3. And you know the answer is 6 divided by 3 would be equal to 2 itself. Okay. Now we are going to consider another thing. From this division, we can consider 2 multiplications. Either we can say 2 into 3, that would be equal to 6. Or we can say 3 into 2, that would be also equal to 6. From this, we can say 3 things. From the first, we can say one thing. From the second, we can say another. And from the third, we can say another. Okay. And from this equation, we can say that 3 is a factor of 6. 3 is a factor of 6. Why Why 3 is a factor of 6? Because when 6 is divided by 3, it is exactly divisible. Because the remainder is 0. Okay. So we can say that 3 is exactly divisible. 6 is exactly divisible by 3, or we can say that 3 is a factor of 6. This is the first statement we got. Now on here you can see that 2 multiplied by 3 gives 6, or we can say that this number 6 is a multiple of 2. Which multiple? The third multiple of 2. Okay, we can say that third multiple of 2 is 6. What does it means? Third multiple of 2 means 2 is multiplied by 3. Then we got the answer 6. Or we can say that the third multiple of 2 is 6. Or simply 6 is a multiple of 2. Okay. Just like that, from here, what we can say? The second multiple of 3 is 6. Or simply we can say that 6 is a multiple of 3. 6 is a multiple of 3. Now simply when we consider the term multiples of a number, then it means that that particular number must be multiplied by 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. numbers. Clear? Let's take an example. If we want to consider the multiples of a number 5, then what we want to do? We want to multiply this number 5 with these kind of numbers. Which means 5 into 1, that would be 5 itself. 5 into 2, that would be 10. 5 into 3, that would be 15. 5 into 4 would be 20, etc. like that. And these numbers 5, 10, 15, 20 all are called multiples of the number 5. So how can you get the multiples of a number? We can get the multiples of a number by multiplying that given number by 1, 2, 3, etc. If you are multiplying by 1, then it would be first multiple. If you are multiplying by 2, then it would be second multiple. If it is multiplied by 3, then it would be third multiple, and so on. Okay. And on that, if we are multiplying by a number 2, then we can say it as double of a number. And if we are multiplying a number by 3, then we can say that it is the triple of a number. If we are multiplying by 2, we can say it is the double of that number. If we are considering the third multiple, which means we are multiplying by 3, then it would be triple of a number. Or otherwise we can say that the double of a number, we can either say 2 times of a number. The triple of a number, we can say 3 times of a number. Okay, just like that we can get all the multiples of a number. So I hope you clear about what is the concept of multiple of a number. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the properties of factors. There are some specialities for factors, the concept factors. Okay, so now we are going to study about which are the properties of factors. And in those properties, you don't want to by heart them, but you want to be well understood those concepts. What they actually means has to be understood. Okay, so let's check the properties of factors one by one. The first property, just read it. The number 1 is a factor of every number. So take any number. Suppose I am taking 1. 1's factor would be 1 itself. One of the factor is 1. Now I am taking number 5. The factor, one of the factor would be 1 itself. Suppose I am taking 100. Its 1 is also a factor of that number 100. So like that, if I am taking or considering any number, one of its factor would be 1 itself, which means 1 is a factor of every number, any natural number. Okay, that's all about the first property. Now read the second property. Any number is a factor of itself. This is somewhat like the above property, but there are some differences. On the above property, we discussed that 1 is a factor of every number, but on the second property, it means that for any number, that number itself is a factor. For the number 5, one of the factor is 5 itself. For the number 123, one of the factor is 123 itself. So for a number, that number itself is one of its factor. That is the second concept. Clear? So when we consider any number, 2 of its factors can be easily predicted. 1 and that number itself. The minimum 2 factors we can easily predict. For the number 128, which are the 2 factors that can be easily predicted? 1 and the number 128. These 2 must be the factors of that number. Okay, so for any number, there must be at least 2 factors. There may be more than 2 factors, but it is sure all of the number must contain at least 2 factors. Minimum 2 factors. Which are those factors? 1 and that number itself. Okay, that is what is referred in the third point, third property. Every natural number has at least 2 factors. Which are the number itself and 1. Okay. Now what about the fourth property? 1 is the only natural number which has only 1 factor. So let's consider the number 1. And for number 1, it would be having only 1 factor. Which is that factor? 1 itself. Okay. So the number 1 is different, quite different from other numbers. Why? Because it has only 1 factor. Now what is the peculiarity of other numbers compared to 1? Other numbers must be having at least how many factors? At least 2 factors. Clear? So 1 is a unique number. And here the property of 1 is it has only 1 factor. Which is that factor? The number 1 itself. Clear? So now let's discuss the fifth property. Which is the fifth property? If 2 numbers A and B are factors of each other, then A must be equal to B. A equals B. Suppose I am considering 2 numbers. One is 2 and the other is 5. Or the other is 6. And you can say that 2 is a factor of 6. Can you say the reverse? 6 is a factor of 2? No, it is not possible. 6 is not a factor of 2. So, If we can say one number A is a factor of B, and in return also we can say B is a factor of A, then it would be possible only if these two numbers are the same, these two numbers are equal. Just take an example like this. Two equal numbers, 5 and 5. You know that 5 is a factor of 5. And in return also you can say that 5 is a factor of 5. Okay. So this is possible only if two numbers are factors of each other. Which means one is a factor of other and the next is the factor of first one. Then those two numbers must be equal. If two numbers are unequal, then they never can be the factors of each other. Okay, that is what is meant by this fifth property. Now what is the sixth property? A factor of a number is always less than or equal to that of that number. This property we have already discussed. On starting, we took an example, the number 6, and we discussed about the different factors got for the number 6. Tell me which are the factors got for the number 6. 1, 2, 3 and 6. And you can see that we have taken the number 6. And when we consider the factors of that number, all of its factors are either less or it would be equal to that number. Any factor cannot be greater than the number taken. Okay, that is what is referred in the sixth property. Now just read the final property. A number can be a factor of more than one number. Let's check it out by taking an example. Suppose I am taking a number 3 and this number 3 can be factor of different numbers. One of the number is 6. 3 is a factor of 6, as you know, because when 6 is divided by 3, the remainder is 0, or 3 is the exact divisor of 6. Just like that, there are different other numbers for which 3 is the exact divisor. For example, for 9, when 9 is divided by 3, there also remainder is 0, which means 3 is a factor of 9 also. Just like that for 12, 15, like that for a different numbers, the number 3 is factor. 3 is a factor, which means a number can be a factor of different numbers. Okay, that is what is referred in the last property. So how many properties we discussed here? Related with the concept of factors, we discussed the 7 properties. And I hope you clear about all these 7 properties. And I told you that these properties you do not want to by heart. Only you just want to understand it. Okay. So now we are going to check the properties of multiples. On the first we discussed the properties of factors, and now we are going to discuss about the properties of multiples. Okay, dear students, now just look at here. We are going to discuss the properties of multiples. As we already discussed that the multiples of a number, how can you get the multiples of a number? We can multiply that number by which numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Then we would get different answers. And those answers are called multiples of a number. Okay. And those multiples has also got some properties that we are going to discuss now. So what is the first property? Every number is a multiple of each of its factors. Each of its factors. So suppose I am taking a number 6 and we are already discussed about the factors of 6. Tell me which are the factors of 6. 1, 2, 3 and finally 6. So out of that, consider these two factors, 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the factors of 6. So we can say that 6 is a multiple of 2 and also 6 is a multiple of 3. So every number is a multiple of each of its factors. So if 2 and 3 are factors of 6, then those 2 and 3's multiple would be 6, or 6 would be a multiple of all of its factors. Clear? This is what is the first property. Now let's check the second property. Every number is a multiple of 1. Suppose I am taking number 7. You can say that 1 into 7. What would be the answer? 7 itself. So 7 is a multiple of 1. 7th multiple. Okay. Just like that. Let's take the number 100. You can see that 1 into 100. 100th multiple of 1 is 100 itself. Okay. So from this, what we can deduce is that every number is a multiple of 1. Or every number can be written as a multiple of 1. How can we written? How can you write the number 23 as a multiple of 1? 1 into 23 would be 23 itself, which means the 23rd multiple of 1 is 23 itself. For every number, that number is a multiple of 1. Okay, every number can be a multiple of 1. That is the meaning of this point. Okay, now what is the next point? Every number is a multiple of itself, which means 5 is a multiple of itself. 5 is a multiple of 5. Why? The number 5 can be written as 5 into 1. 100 is a multiple of 100. Why? The number 100 can be written as 100 into 1. The first multiple. The number 1023 is a multiple of itself. Why? Because the number 1023 can be written as 1023 into 1. So for any number, the first multiple of that number would be the same number itself. Okay. So for any number, that number is a multiple of itself. Clear? Now what is the next property? A number can be a multiple of several different numbers. A number can be a multiple of several different numbers. Let's take an example. Suppose I have the number 12. And you know that 1 into 12 equals 12. So 12 is a multiple of 1. Now 2 into 6 also equals 12. Which means 12 is a multiple of 2 also. 3 into 4 equals 12. Which means 12 is a multiple of 3 also. Which means the number 12 is a multiple of all the numbers 1, 2 and 3. Which means the same number can be a multiple of different other numbers. Okay, that is what is referred by this topic. A number can be a multiple of several different numbers. A number can be a multiple of several different numbers. Okay. Now the last final point related with the properties of multiples. Read it. A multiple of a natural number is always greater than or equal to that number. So if you want to find the multiples of 6, how can you find? We need to multiply 6 by 1, 6 by 2, 6 by 3, 6 by 4, etc. like that. We would get different multiples: 6, 12, 18, 24, etc. And you can see that all these multiples of 6 are either greater than 6 or can be at least equal to 6. Okay, this is the last property. So that's all about the multiples and their properties. So I hope you clear about the concepts, factors and multiples and their properties also. That's all about the topics we discussed today. Certain homeworks which are very simple would be given for you and you should have to do them and send it to me. Okay, now let's see in the next class. Bye.